Hi everyone, Kay Berkner here today with Dr. Tom Phelan, author and creator of 123 Magic and the author of the Manager Mom Epidemic. Dr. Phelan, welcome.
Good morning, Kay.
How are you doing today?
I'm doing pretty good after a tooth pull yesterday, so I think I don't look like a chipmunk, I hope.
No, you look great. So, and after a tooth pull, it can be maybe a little hard to get a good night's sleep, huh?
It does interfere some, but I'm still hanging around here and feel pretty good overall.
That's good. Well, a good night's sleep is exactly what we're talking about today. We're going to talk about getting the kids to bed. Obviously, in an ideal world, bedtime would be a sweet, wonderful, peaceful time where you connect with your kids, you put them to bed, they lay their heads down and fall gently asleep, and you have a little bit of free time to hang out with your spouse, to pursue your own hobbies, just to rest and relax and watch Netflix. But that's not really what it looks like in most houses, is it?
It's not, unfortunately. It's I think with bedtime we kind of play it by ear too much, and we say to the kids, "Well, it's time to get ready for bed," and then of course there's a lot of contention and so on. And one of the biggest factors about bedtime is that if you get into a situation where you get mad at the kids and they get mad at you, that is super duper bad for bed, because anger and sleep don't mix.
Yeah, absolutely. So why is it that kids don't want to go to bed? As a parent, I am ready for bed at like 8 p.m. I'm ready. I am excited to get in bed. Why is it that kids just don't want to go to bed and go to sleep?
Well, there are two reasons. One is bedtime is boring. And this is FOMO, fear of missing out, and kids want to, what are you doing? I don't want to be in there by myself, and so on. The second one is fear. Kids, when they get to be preschoolers, are vulnerable to nighttime fears. There's burglar in the basement, there's somebody in my closet, somebody's climbing up the wall outside, and all this kind of stuff. And that's normal, but fear and sleep are also incompatible. So the FOMO and fear equals you got kids who don't want to go to bed.
Yeah, absolutely. So what are the most common challenges that parents are likely to run into at bedtime?
Well, they're really two. One is getting the kids into bed, and the other is keeping them in bed and responding to the litany of I have to go pee, I'm thirsty, these pajamas itch, the dog's still outside, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So you have to not only get them in bed, but you got to have ways of keeping them there.
Yes, they're very good at asking all of the questions, or I just have one more thing to tell you is very popular at our house. So what is the best solution for parents so that they are not answering endless questions and responding to endless requests at bedtime?
You really need, and people have heard this before, I'm sure, you need a basic bedtime routine that starts at a particular time. You don't pull bedtime out of your ear every night and make it a different time. It's a set time, and you have an anticipatory time. So maybe 9 o'clock is bedtime and 8:30 is when you start getting ready for bed. With the little kids under 5, preschoolers, you're going to have to help them through it. You're going to have to go through it with them because they can't sustain that kind of attention themselves. With the older kids, you can have a deal where they get ready for bed on their own, and the sooner they get ready, the more time they have to either talk to you or for story between whatever time is left and 9 o'clock. So your routines can be different for the big kids and the little kids, but you have to have a routine.
Yeah, and one of the things that one of the questions that we often get from parents is, okay, I've got the bedtime routine down. I tell the kids when it's time to get ready for bed at the same time every night. They brush their teeth, they put on their pajamas, they pick out a story. What do I do if my child does something countable during the bedtime routine?
Yeah, if the kid does something countable, you can do several things, but one is you can actually give them a timeout. It can be a short timeout, and that just comes off the time left. So if they get say a 3-minute timeout, that's 3-minute less time they have for story or whatever. If the kid is really acting up right at bedtime, what we've done with some kids is we just take their shoes and maybe their pants off and put them in bed with their whatever other clothes they have on, and that's bedtime. Some people think that sounds kind of cruel, but you have to really mean business. You're not being mean or anything like that, but the kids have to know that when you say something, it means what you say.
Yeah, and you know, you said that FOMO and fear, anger and fear don't mix well with sleep. They also don't mix well with reasoning, right? So this is kind of harkening back to the little adult assumption. You really can't reason with a young child having a tantrum because they don't want to go to bed at bedtime. You kind of at some point have to very kindly, very gently put them in bed in a safe, comfortable place and sort of just call it for the night.
You're absolutely right. There's a time to stop talking. And as you're pointing out, that business about automatically falling into, I call it the default to reasoning, can be a killer. You're going to be up for 2 hours.
Yeah. So say we've gotten through the whole bedtime routine, everything's gone beautifully. We've brushed our teeth, we've put on our pajamas, we've read a story, we've chatted a little bit, we did a song. Okay, good night, sweetheart, lights out. What happens if your child won't stay in bed at that point?
You know, what we're going to do really, and I did this with my son, he climbed out of his crib when he was 18 months old, and I was at a loss for what to do. What you're going to do is what we call the cut them off at the pass routine. And you're going to just assume they're kind of uncomfortable and that they're a little scared. And so what I did with him is I got myself a good book and I put him back in bed, and I sat in the doorway to his room with my back to him, and I just read my book. And two things weren't going to happen after bedtime. Number one, he was not leaving that room. And number two, I was not talking to him. And it worked. A couple of months, he was in a junior bed and doing just fine. But you have to sit there, and if they keep talking and talking, you don't say anything back. If he'd get up some of the time, and I'd put him back, and after 3 or 4 times of putting him back, I'd just let him go sleep on the floor, and he would. I'd cover him up some nights. Other nights, I'd try and get him from the floor to the crib. I don't know if you ever tried to do that without waking up a child. It's not the easiest thing in the world to do. But we won the battle because I did mean business, and I wanted him in bed, and I wanted some free time for myself.
Yeah, absolutely. And how long should a parent be prepared to sit in the doorway on a given night, say at the start of a cut them off at the pass routine?
Well, the bad news here is until they go to sleep, because if you leave, you're going to hear from them, and it doesn't work. So you do it until they go to sleep, and this is no fun. Switch parents if there's 2 of you at home. But then what you can do also is, as the weeks go by, you can take the chair and move it a little bit so they see less and less of you. They see just half of your back and then just a little bit of you. And after the kids, if they know you're not playing games with them and they know what the routine is, they'll go to sleep faster and faster, which is good. So you have to sit there less and less time. But you can't try and trick them, because if you get them vigilant as to when you're going to be leaving, they're not going to go to sleep at all.
Got it. And along the lines of kids getting out of bed, one of the things that you talk about along with bedtime is what you refer to as nighttime waking, right? So this is bedtime has gone fine, kids in bed, everybody's sleeping. It is now, maybe it's late and you're downstairs watching a show with your partner, or maybe it's the middle of the night and you're already in bed and your child wakes up or even comes into your room to get you. What should you do in that situation?
Yeah, a lot of times my daughter would come in the middle of the night to get us, and I couldn't figure out what was going on. She'd talk about things that didn't make any sense. And what I finally did, and that worked with her, doesn't mean it's going to work with everybody every time, but I assumed she had to go to the bathroom, and I'd take her and I'd put her on the potty, and boy, she had to go. That was what was waking her up. She was 7.5 years old. You would think a 7.5-year-old could go to the bathroom by herself and go back, but I don't know. She just came, she felt pain, I guess, and, go find mom and dad. So it's when they appear at your bedside, you don't say anything. You assume they have to go to the bathroom. No talking, no lights, no emotion. You escort them to the bathroom. They go potty. You help them clean up if necessary. Take them back to bed. Put them in bed. Kiss them goodnight. Don't say anything. And then see if you can get out of the room. If you can't get out of the room without them getting upset, you sit in a chair by their bed until they go to sleep. That's no fun either. You want to be in bed with them or sleep on the floor or whatever, but it works. But the bottom line on this one is assume they have to go potty and don't talk. And that'll usually get you where you want to go. And after a while, this stage will disappear and they'll be over it.
Okay, wonderful. Well, thank you so much, Dr. Phelan. If you are struggling with bedtime or looking to create a great basic bedtime routine, Dr. Phelan is going to be doing a full free seminar on that next week. So make sure you get signed up for that either to the link on our Facebook page or in our newsletter, 123magic.com. The other thing we wanted to talk about today is sort of what are the two biggest things that ruin relationships, adult romantic relationships. Can you share with us what those things are, Dr. Phelan?
Yeah, I will try. I feel a little guilty talking about this because I feel like raining on people's parade. But let me put it in perspective a little bit. Imagine when you were dating and you were dating somebody and you're having fun. And so your focus of your relationship is having fun, but the focus is your relationship with this person. Okay. And then you get married or you move in together. What is the focus of your relationship? The two things that you were just referring to, kids and money. And it's really hard to maintain a vital relationship when the focus is on the relationship itself. Of course, that's fine, and you're hopeful, you're having a good time and all that. And then you go away from the fun and not focusing on your relationship anymore, and you're focusing on making money and the children. They're time eaters, both of them. And that's why we have a divorce rate that's 40 to 50% of first marriages. And you can't assume everybody else that's still together is happy. So it's a bad statistic. And I think we're horribly naive when it comes to, we're going to go from dating and having fun and focusing on the relationship now to it's kids and money. Wait a minute, that wasn't the game that I signed up for.
Right, because you think, oh, we've dated, this has been great, we want to keep doing this
Right.
for as long as possible. But if you haven't had kids and you haven't had to share a household or finances with anyone, you sometimes don't realize sort of the impact that can have on the relationship. Absolutely. So is there a solution? Is there anything that can be done about this?
I'm not sure, to be honest with you. I think for one thing, we have to be more realistic and we have to stop winging it. And I think you also have to decide, is it too late? Maybe you're a nice coworker for me now, but the romance is really gone. One writer described it as a transition from lovers to parents. And I think that's a good transition. And for a lot of people, it's like, well, it was nice way back when, but we got so many other things going on right now. So maybe we can be good friends and good coworkers. The other thing, people, the traditional date night suggestion has been around for a bazillion years. And, that's an attempt to try and put some fun back into the relationship. But if it's, circumscribed like that and it doesn't come very naturally, I'm not sure that that's a workable solution. So, ideally the solution would be, how do we get the fun back in the relationship? And that's a mammoth problem. And I don't know that I have great answers to it.
Gotcha. So next week, Dr. Phelan is going to be doing an 8-minute parenting tip, talking a little bit more about this topic, some of the challenges that are caused, a lot of it having to do with sort of our expectations and our mindset when we're making that switch from we're dating and it's fun and it's just about us to we're married or we're in a long-term committed relationship. And now there has to be more of a focus on kids and money. So just kind of talking about what some of those factors can be, what our expectations tend to be, and maybe how to adjust our expectations to more successfully make that transition so that your parenting relationship as well as your romantic relationship both remain happy and helpful. So again, you can sign up for that through the link on the Facebook page or through our newsletter, where you can get signed up at 123magic.com. Thanks so much for joining us, and we'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.
Thanks, Dan.